Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Easton Taxation Aid Committee meeting. I'm going to go over our remote meeting procedures in keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by committee members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards a quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, you will need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application at zoom.us and create an account or use one of the call-in numbers. You will need the webinar ID to join by phone only. When conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to our normal standard procedures as possible. However, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While committee members and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they are muted with no live video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom, or make a request with the Q&A function. If you are joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. If an applicant wishes to display materials, please make the request of the chair and email the materials to the board staff for sharing on screen. When starting testimony, please state your name and address for the record. There is a markup function on Zoom which will allow you to call out specific areas of your presentation. As in any public meeting, indecent behavior will not be tolerated, and anybody who abuses use of the meeting platform will be terminated from the meeting. Business will be handled at the times indicated on the agenda. Business not concluded in the allotted time will be tabled to the end of the meeting to allow for timely logons and remote attendance. Board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and second it so that it will be clear to the audience and the minute takers. All votes will be taken by roll call. When all business indicated on the agenda has been completed, the members will vote to adjourn the meeting, signaling the end of the meeting and the termination of the ECAT recording. All participants will be disconnected from the webinar at that time. Applicants will join the webinar as attendee and promoted to panelists at their agenda item. Applicants will then be able to share their screens and present their materials as much as possible. Materials should be provided beforehand. Individual board chairs and staff may wish to keep screen sharing to their computer. Applicants are encouraged to speak with staff prior to the meeting on how material can be presented. All right, welcome everybody. Let's get started. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from September 23rd.
I just had one little comment about this. In number 3, fundraising account balance is $4,500. If I said that, I should have said about $4,500. The exact balance is $4,330. So I just want, we can reflect that, I think, in this week's meeting minutes. But I did just run back in there and figure out, did something get taken away or something? And it didn't. If I said that it was $4,500, then that is not correct. It's $4,330.
I can fix that. I'll fix that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I move that we accept the meeting minutes with that
Edit.
correction.
Yep. I second.
Linda seconds. Let's do the roll call just to keep with procedures. All those are Linda Hawks,
Hawks eye.
Megan Ferguson,
Ferguson, aye.
Cometa, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Cometa, aye.
Mike McKenna. I think he's muted. Mike, I think you're muted. All right. We'll just, and Andrew Fleischer, aye. So.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Mike McKenna, aye.
Awesome. Okay. All right, next item on the list, continuation from last meeting as a discussion on escrow accounts and recipients of assistance. Does anybody have anything on that?
I can add that, or mention that I have received 4 applications so far. None of them, to my knowledge, have escrow accounts involved in their tax paying. It would, secondly, it would make things very confusing if we voted to pay an entire year's worth of taxes for someone and they had an escrow account. That if any of you have escrow accounts, one little change and you're paying for it for a couple years while your escrow company works out the differences. So if we were to have an applicant who had an escrow company paying their taxes, I would suggest that we would vote, if they were otherwise eligible, that we would vote to pay only what is the 3rd and 4th quarter, which is the installments due February 1st and May 1st, which are the installments that we still have yet to come this fiscal year. At this time every year, we have quarter 3 and quarter 4 still to come, and those are the ones that I would suggest we help out with, as opposed to trying to go backwards in time.
Okay. But for other people, we decided that, or in general, we decided that we could reflect, have it reflect on the whole year, correct? All right. Well, I think that's something we just need to keep in mind. I don't know that we will be in a position in our brand new account to
Right.
be able to do that for people yet, to give people the whole break. So I think I think the grants that we issue will probably get eaten up in the 3rd and 4th quarter anyway.
Yep.
So hopefully, hopefully down the road, it's an issue that we have to approach, and that we are in a good position to do that. But
it's not a bad problem to have, but
Right.
It will, no matter what, really, it will mess up. It will throw a kink into their escrow calculations.
Okay.
Whether or not anybody would, complain about that, I don't think so. But
Yeah, we'll keep that.
Well, it's more minutia. It's more minutia, Linda, for everybody involved
Yeah.
Yep.
when there doesn't need to be.
Linda, now with the other, and this doesn't need to be directed to you, just to the group, with the other tax abatements that go on, right? Like, I know, like the veterans tax, property tax abatement, right? You may get, I know the lowest one is $400. The highest one is a full exemption, which in that case, that's great. But the second highest one is $1,000. So for folks that get the 400 off every year, their escrow company takes that into account and factors for the following year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So would it be a similar?
No, it wouldn't, because these are not going to go on the the tax accounts as exemptions. So when a person has an exemption,
True.
we report to the escrow company that their annual taxes were $5,000. You know, when in fact they were $5,400, but 400 of that came off in an exemption. We're reporting $5,000 just as an example. And so the escrow company uses that $5,000 figure. In this particular, in the case of these donations, this is going to be applied to their taxes as a payment, not as an exemption. And the software has no way of distinguishing or reducing the taxes due for
Okay,
that type of a payment, as
That's
it
good.
does for an exemption.
that's good. So that it won't affect. It'll basically act as if we're, you know, like this is only a one-time thing kind of thing, you know, like it wouldn't be assumed that this is a repeating.
Yeah, yes and no. What happens is that every quarter, the escrow companies are asking me how much is due. And once that quarter goes by that nothing is due, or that a reduced amount is due because a payment has been applied against it, they expect that same amount to go forward the next 12 months.
Okay,
So, and so they don't collect enough. So if a person gets it this year, but not next year, now the escrow account is under withholding or under deducting each
yeah.
month. And
I mean, the bottom line, I'm sorry, go ahead.
nope, that's it.
I was just gonna say, the bottom line is, you know, your monthly mortgage payment may increase or decrease, but you're still paying the same. I know it still kind of washes out in the end, but I think people would be affected, possibly adversely affected by, you know, their mortgage payment increases by $50, $100 a month due to a miscalculation.
Yeah, the underreporting in 1 year creates a deficit in the escrow account, and then the escrow account comes back, the escrow holder comes back to the person and says, well, we under withheld, now you owe us that $500 back because we didn't withhold it. But they paid it. That's their deal. They pay it. They always will pay whatever is due.
Right.
So
They'll
now they
just
say, now we've got a
take it
shortage in your account. And that doesn't actually happen to, like, almost, in some cases, 2 years down the line. It's a long-term
Yeah.
solution with the escrow companies.
So, I mean, do we foresee that being a large problem, or are we thinking it's a risk we're willing to take? I mean, I think but the individual will agree to accept the money, right? So it's not like, you know, it's not our fault if that type of.
What I would suggest is that when and if that time comes, when we're writing the letter to the person saying, yeah, you've been awarded $500 or $1,000, I'll have a very distinct paragraph, or I'll add a very distinct paragraph that says, you know, this may impact your escrow payments, you know, or anything being collected on your behalf for real estate taxes. Put them on notice that something's going to happen. I think eventually it would be looking a gift horse in the mouth if they didn't want the money. Right. But they do have to be aware of the potential. That would be my suggestion, is to put it in the letter when we make the awards.
Yeah, definitely. I will also do some research to see if there's anything we can do to, I don't know if there's any kind of communication you can have. I mean, I remember my first mortgage that had escrow, I was a little frustrated. You know, and I don't know, maybe there's a way to communicate with the company or the mortgage company to, I don't know, let them know in some way. I'll do some research on that. And if it doesn't seem like something that's easy to do, then we'll leave it out and we'll just stick with, I like the plan that you came up with, Linda, there, where we just kind of let them know, you know, by accepting this, you understand that this may happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. I mean,
Go
you
ahead.
know, they're gonna have to pay more closer attention to their escrow account moving forward, just to make sure that they have enough money in there to pay their taxes in the future.
All right, I think that wraps up that item. So we will all keep that in mind if that ends up affecting any of the awards we're giving or the grants. So item 3 on the agenda is a discussion of entering an executive session to discuss applicants. So I was doing and part of this discussion is that, the purpose of today's meeting is really to prepare ourselves for meeting in November to actually discuss the applicants and to award money. So there were a couple questions that arose in last month's meeting was the logistics of doing an executive session through Zoom, and then also the logistics of an executive session in general. So I don't know. I was reading. I don't know if anyone else has more experience or more thoughts on this, but I was reading through today a memo on and Corey. I asked Corey to share it with the meeting minutes and the agenda for tonight, and it was from the town website. It's the executive session checklist. So essentially, in order to enter an executive session, you have to meet one of 10 criteria items, and they're all incredibly specific. I think the one, in reading this over, I think the one that we would most likely fall under. So there's obviously, with public meeting laws as they are, we have to be careful with this. So the item 7 is, I think it was to comply with or act under authority of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements. But it's not a federal grant. But I'm unclear from reading these instructions as to how legally specifically we would enter into an executive session. I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that. I would assume that we could reach out to the clerk's office for advice on this, and just make sure that we can indeed do that. I mean, they don't. Most of this, the rules here pertain to collective bargaining. So I don't know if there's any. Yeah, Corey, please.
Yes, so I spoke to Michael Blanchard, who organizes and runs basically like what I do for this meeting, he does for the select board meeting. So what he does is, and I don't know if this answers your question, but he didn't say anything about, kind of basically the board decides when they need to go into executive session.
Okay.
And for us, it's to discuss sensitive matters relating to,
Yeah.
personal identifying information, anything like that we deal with quite a bit, reviewing applications, things like that. And what he does for, obviously when there's, before Zoom came into the picture of these meetings, they just would meet in a room and it's not open to the public. The Zoom version of that is a separate Zoom account that I get through the same town clerk's office where I get the same account that we're using right now. And we set up a separate room and it's not posted publicly. I mean, I can see who's in here right now anyway. But that's how he does it for the select board.
It would also turn off the recording, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
You can also do it on a conference call.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. Mike, do you do a lot of executive session
Yeah,
with the assessors board?
yeah, we go into it.
Okay. Do you want to speak at all to, are you guys?
What was that?
I was just saying, would you mind just sharing a little bit about, just how you do that?
Well,
Because
when we discuss,
we have not
abatements
committee.
and anything to do with the court, any court hearings that we have, or any kind of sensitive information regarding any kind of abatements or. So, I mean, you can go into it because you're dealing with personal with people's
Yeah.
ID, their social security numbers and all that,
Right.
and their financial situation. So that's all private information that you don't want. And usually what we do is Robbie Alford, the chief assessor,
So, yeah.
drops off the paperwork so we can review it, look at it, and then, that way you're not sitting in a meeting trying to discuss, the pros and cons of giving it to this person or that person. And we can kind of have
Right.
like a round table after that. And if I decide, this person deserves it, and somebody else says, well, really, I don't feel that way. That at least you've already looked at all the paperwork and all the
Mhm.
numbers before the meeting, and then you can do it on a conference call, because that's what we do right now. Can't wait to get back to a real meeting because it's just painful. And we sign. Last week we signed, I don't know, probably 50, 55 abatements. So, it makes it difficult on our end, but at least if we can do something, see the paperwork, and then, what Robbie does is then he comes back out and picks it up and shreds it.
So you guys,
Okay.
you guys discuss it, you guys review it all, and then
Then we discuss it into executive session.
you discuss it in an executive session.
Exactly,
Okay.
because there's too much private information.
So what we would have to do is disseminate the applications prior to our next meeting in
We'd have to
whatever
see
way,
them.
shape, or form is secure and approved or whatever.
Right. And usually what we do is, I mean, when we go into executive session, usually we have a lot of the paperwork already ahead of us, so that, we can review it, a day ahead or that afternoon, or a couple days ahead. That way we can review it, and then any kind of points that I have, or Scott Tamalti or Ray Morrell, then we bring it up in executive session.
Okay,
Can I swing an idea by you?
please.
I was playing with the 4 applications that I do have on hand, and I'm gonna just try to share my screen. Corey knows I'm not very good at this. I think he was at the payroll training meeting yesterday or on Wednesday. But let me just show you something. Here we go. So I was just playing around with the 4 applicants that I do have, and I put their pertinent information into spreadsheet format. I can make this better. There's not an awful lot more information that I can add to it, but I'm sure that by talking, we could think of other things. If I were to summarize information like this, would that be helpful as opposed to getting the physical application from me to you, or however, either email or secure email or mail, or delivering it around? And of course, the town hall is open. Anybody's welcome to come in and look at these at any time. But this is our 4 applicants. There's no name on it because I wasn't sure whether we wanted to know who it was. And as I'm not a local, I'm probably in a good position to not know any of these people. I actually do know at least one of them, but this is the summary of their information. The eligibility criteria. I added some facts about what their taxes were. And right before the meeting, I ran through and found out whether or not anybody had an escrow account that I needed to be concerned with. I don't believe any of them do, unless
Okay.
their escrow companies are paying online.
I like that
Which
you
would be weird.
that you did this. I think this really answers a lot of the questions without putting the names, because that way, I mean, I guarantee I probably know at least 3 of these people, I'd guess. I don't know, and I think it
Yeah.
is better. It is better to just look at them like this. And I think you hit a lot of the key points. I would say the only case that we would want probably if there was some sort of narrative or like a little letter they wrote, like their own little remarks on why they deserve this or why they should get this. Or,
Yeah, I don't think any of them did.
yeah,
I
because
don't-
otherwise, we don't need to see what their handwriting looks like. That doesn't.
I mean,
And that's really what it kind of comes down to. Nobody really included any information except that, yeah, here's my income and I know that I'm low income and I'd like to be able to take advantage of, another offering.
Yeah, I think doing it this way, it's like this double blind. It couldn't be much more fair. I mean, their names, and I think I would suggest, I think it would be appropriate for us to all know the name of the person once it's decided. But I think up until then, there's no need to keeping the names out. I think it keeps it even more fair.
Yeah.
I agree. I like this way, Linda.
Yep. Now I'll have to say, going through these, you can see in my comments there, oftentimes people have 2 names on a deed. One owner passes away and the remaining owner simply doesn't update the deed. So there are 2 people here who have multiple names on the deed, but I can tell by their income tax returns, they're filing single. So I don't know if that matters. I don't know if we want to take that into consideration. Is there another person with income in the house? I don't know. The application says who else lives in the house and they're not listing anybody. So
we're not listing anybody.
yeah. So, I mean, I suspect the co-owner has died or otherwise is no longer there.
Do they have contact information on
Yep.
their form? Could someone in your office give them a call and confirm
Yep.
that in fact the owner is no longer alive?
Yeah,
And
I can do that.
And if it's not correct, they need to correct their form. I think that's the solution there. I'm okay with the idea of leaving the names off. I think I would still like to see the full application
Okay.
because it goes into a deeper detail. I like the idea of the names because you leaving the names off, because the next thing I was going to talk about is conflict of interest. Being is that, we all probably will know somebody who may apply. So I don't know if there's a way we could distribute the applications and we, to each of us before this meeting. And if we're all in agreement, we could redact the names and you could just put the letter on it. Because I think when we get into a discussion, we may have questions about, certain things on the application, just to look at the details. But in general, I like this. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're emailing it, Linda, it can be just as simple as putting a sticky note over their name,
Well, we have, tell me if I can redact the name. There is the property address.
Right.
Of course, it's signed. And then there's the, one person has the whole tax return, which probably has the name on every page.
I mean, I think there's 2 ways to look at this too. Is we could either, I think we're all going to approach this professionally. So we could leave the names on
Yeah.
and recuse ourselves if we know somebody who's applying, if we know them personally, from voting, or we could try and do it anonymously. And I would be okay with either. If we all agree that, we're kind of, I feel like we act as a board using consensus. So I'd like to know what everybody's thoughts are on it. Because I would be okay with knowing the names, and just if we believe that there's some sort of conflict, you remove yourself from the vote. You don't vote on that person's application. Or we could move forward this way. So
I think keep it anonymous.
You like it anonymous?
Yeah, because I mean, as long as the financial documents are all in order, it
Okay.
shouldn't really make a difference on if we know them or we don't know them. If we're just looking at the financial records, then Linda has that all in order, and
Yep.
we can just make a judgment call on A, B, C, D, on the, for the requirements that are listed.
Well, I think if we're going to use this document that Linda made, then we can go anonymously without knowing the names. But if we have to share the applications before the meeting, then it might be a lot of work for Linda to take out the names. So,
Yeah. But in general, is everybody pretty much in favor of doing it anonymously, assuming we can make that work? I feel like everybody is. Does anybody object to that? I mean, I think you make a good point that the names are just names. But I wonder if conversely we could run into an unforeseen conflict of interest where we could have recused ourselves, but and we vote on somebody we know, and they get without, we're doing it anonymously, but they get the grant or the funding, and then to someone from the outside, there's an appearance of a conflict, because they know that we're on the committee, they see that this person gets the money, and
But
then
nobody
we
would see it.
voted on it.
Yeah, we could always write into the directives that this is how we decide.
Yeah.
And just be totally, I would recommend, if we do go forward with using this, we should make it official by, making it transparent that this is the method we use, is we, remove all personal identifying information and make a decision based off of the remaining information.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think that would,
Yeah, I'm on board with that. If we make that known, I think that'll take care of that.
I'm more interested in knowing whether they have someone else living in the home with them that is on the deed, and they're just doing this singly as opposed to being a couple, or that to me is more concerning than who they are, or their financial information.
Well, that would be on the register, on their the voter registration, wouldn't it? On who votes in that house,
If they're registered with the town, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you'd be able to see.
They
if
could have
you pull up
passed. They could have passed, and it just hasn't been removed yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, Andrew, did you want me to send you any of the applications, even redacted then, or do you want me to send them around? Because I can just, I'll just scan them all into my computer, redact the information, even if it's a lot, even if it's on every page, it can't be, there's only 4.
Yeah.
It can't be all that bad.
I think
Want me to
so.
take a stab at it?
Yeah, I think so, just so that we all have the same access to the information in front of us when making the decision. We all have the full picture. Maybe I'm being too overly detailed, but I think that would be good. And yeah, so I think we're in agreement on that. We'll do this anonymously, and we can, if need be, maybe we can vote on that before we enter the executive session next time, to make it official. But yeah, I think that sounds good. Any other thoughts on that? And I guess we already kind of went into the conflict of interest discussion. So if we're gonna stick with the idea of doing this, then I think that covers the conflict of interest part of our discussion.
Yep.
Any
Okay, so
other thoughts on this?
I would still like to have our discussions, the final discussion in executive session.
Yeah.
Even if no names
Yeah.
Absolutely.
are
Yeah,
revealed.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. So I think in readings, I'll probably reach out to the clerk's office or somebody just to make sure that I just want to make sure, because of what we're doing here, that we're above board. And we do need to vote to enter executive session. So we'll have that vote at our next meeting, in order to move forward. So this is really just, for tonight's purposes, it's just discussing it ahead of time, so we're not, when we go to actually vote, not figuring it out on the fly.
Linda, do these applicants get any kind of other deductions from the town?
Well, I did try to, hold on a second. I did try to put in a little column of who might still be, who received other exemptions, like right here.
Yeah.
So one person didn't get any, varying degrees. This person here.
I saw the CPA and the senior work off.
Right. And then there's other ones, the 17D, I forget what a 17D is, but this person got $175 for that. This person is normally eligible for exemptions, but didn't get the paperwork in on time last year. So,
Okay.
So initially I thought he didn't get any, and I thought, that's weird. How come he's not applying for exemptions?
Right.
But it's because he just missed out
Didn't
last
make the
year.
date.
I went back further and he does have them.
Right.
So I think that is something that is to be considered when we start looking at everything.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, I think that's a great discussion, and everybody made some good points. So I think we're equipped to move forward. So the next item was the conflict of interest. I don't think anybody has any thoughts on that, because we just covered that. So let's discuss next meeting date and time, unless anybody has other thoughts. So the applications are due, there's still a week for people to get their applications in, October 29th. And then I believe what we discussed was that we would meet in November. And now looking at the, I came up with a thought just looking at what Linda had put, and then we had questions about if there's other people in the house. I think it's good for us to meet in November, because our goal was to get this decided by December. If we all meet, we decide we just need more information, then that buys us time to go back to the applicant and ask for more information. So I think we should, I know November is probably, the November and December will probably be busy for everybody, but I think if we could meet mid-November, or, a week or so before Thanksgiving, that might be a good time frame. So just pulling up my calendar here, maybe November 18th is a Thursday at 5:30. And in order to do the executive session, we'll have to do a normal session and then vote to go into executive session. But we will schedule this meeting with the understanding that we're likely going to enter an executive session.
Is 5:30 working for everybody? I know I was the one that requested that it be a little bit later than 5, but I don't want to be like bossy about it. Like if it works better at 5 for people, just say so, please.
5:30 is good for me.
That should work for me.
Yep, 5:30 is good.
Okay.
That's good, it works.
Okay, excellent. So we'll plan on doing that the 18th at 5:30, and Linda will work towards getting the redacted applications out to everybody in some way, shape, or form. Corey will set up the meeting and the things necessary for executive session, and I'll just do some diligence on my side to make sure that we are doing everything above board. But I'm really excited that we're actually, one year into this, we've come so far and we're ready to give out money, and I'm thrilled about that. So it'll be we'll have to like give ourselves a round of applause once we the first chance.
I did have one question before we adjourn. Has anybody else sent out applications? I know that in addition to the 4 that we've received, I've sent out a couple of others at least, and I've spoken to a couple other people about it. Is that anybody else reach out to them, to any of you guys, or?
No one's reached out to me. I've discussed it at Lions Club meetings and things of that nature, but
Maybe once we do it once, people will be like, oh, it actually does exist. So
It'll get traction.
it's real, it's real.
lot of
Just
John,
talk for the past year.
Yeah, I mean we made that push to make awareness, on Facebook and the newsletters, and then on some other things, and we're still on some of those newsletters on a recurring basis. So, I think the real outreach is probably going to be people calling into your office or Corey's office saying, hey, what can I do here? That's probably where most of the awareness is going to come, is people actually get their tax bills and are like, oh, hold on a second. So,
It's going to be word of mouth. I mean, it's going to be like, hey,
Yeah.
So they actually gave me money off my tax bill this year. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. So
spread.
Yeah. So hopefully, as we build more money, we'll build, a larger pool of applicants, and continue to make this worthwhile. So, any other comments from anybody on anything before we adjourn?
Just if everybody could please send me agenda items over the next. I usually like to. I mean, it needs to be posted. A couple of days prior, but I usually like to post it like a week prior just to get it done and settled. But if you guys can send me agenda items, that would be great.
All right.
All right. Any motions to adjourn the meeting?
make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion. Let's do the roll call so we get comfortable with this. Linda,
Hawks, yay.
Megan,
Ferguson, yay.
Andrew, yay. Cometa,
Meta, yay.
and Mike.
Aye.
All right, perfect. Sorry. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you,
Have a good night.
You too.
everyone.
Thank you.